Hello and welcome to the Airway and Jawline Restoration Protocol. The purpose of this protocol is to restore the airway, to enhance or restore the sharpness of the jawline, and to release some of the most negatively impacted muscles from hunching over and looking at our phones and sitting and the modern lifestyle. For this breathing enhancement protocol, I did not add a diaphragm release. This protocol was designed to be done every single night, but I highly recommend trying a diaphragm release on top of this protocol, especially if you want to release the rib cage and allow your lungs to expand without restriction. Now, obviously, increasing jawline sharpness and attractiveness is a major motivator at doing this fascia release protocol. And I am so grateful that you're here to try it, but my main goal for you is not about the vanity. My goal is for you to restore your body's natural ability to fully breathe and to feel what it feels like to take a full breath. That way you can breathe deeper, sleep better, and feel your absolute best. The visible benefits of this protocol are only somewhat of a side effect of the actual benefits of this protocol that will bring you true joy. I'm so grateful you're here. Let's get into it. We're working with a few tools today. We have the gua sha blade, organic single ingredient castor oil. You can also use organic coconut oil, especially for the occipitals in the back of the neck. I have my own face moisturizer. It's from Norse Organics. That's what I use for my face because I tend to break out if I use coconut oil or castor oil when I gua sha blade my jaw. The last tool I have is a non-dyed organic cotton towel, and we are going to be using this to mimic our ancestral tendency to take a big bite of meat and chew it off of the bone. I have such an organic natural towel because I don't want to be chewing on plastic or dyes. I will link one in the Amazon storefront below, which, quick disclaimer, if you use that, you are supporting me, and I'm very grateful for your support. The last thing you need is a clean pair of hands, and we're starting off on the temples. We're finding a place on the temples where when we bite down, we feel that movement in our palms. So we're scrolling around the temples, moving our palms around on the temple muscle. When we find that place that feels pretty tight, we're gonna find one. We're just gonna take a couple bite downs. 10 or so. Doing what feels good. This feels good for me right now. Next, we are taking clean thumbs into the Pterygoid and Masseter. For this protocol to work at its maximum potency, it is important that we release all of these muscles before doing some of the exercises. That way, when we go through and do the exercises, there is no tension holding our face back from growing in the direction of opening the airway positively. Almost going down a little bit, moving our thumbs around, digging around, searching for a place that feels tight. When you find a place that feels tight, apply pressure to it for 5 breaths. And then we're going to end with 10 open and closes. Taking it really slow, digging up in there deep, okay? It's all about the digging, finding a place that hurts, applying pressure, letting that fascia melt. And 10 underbite, overbite. The last thing we're doing is moving the jaw forward and backwards, overbiting and underbiting. Moving on to the lateral pterygoid. We're going to be going above where the cheekbone and jawbone intersect and also below. Oh, yeah. Taking some opening and closes. releasing these muscles. Whenever we release these, we're really going to be able to sleep a lot easier with our mouth closed, because when these muscles get tight, they start pulling the chin back. Okay, when we find a good place, take a couple clenches. Okay, going on top this time, just right on top of that cheekbone, finding a place that's tight or hurts. I usually find it right in here. Same thing, when you find that spot that's pretty tight, apply a good amount of pressure. We're going to take 10 clenches. This is one of the most important muscles to release to allow the chin to float forward and unrestrict the airway. Whenever this muscle's tight, it pulls the chin backwards, retrudes the jaw, and makes it harder to breathe through the nose. When this releases, it makes nose breathing a whole lot easier, especially in our sleep. Okay, maybe a little massage. Next, we're moving up in the jaw, hooking up underneath. Finding that inside. Little baby movements here are good to use your thumbs to dig around. Find any place along this muscle line that's tight or hurts and apply a good amount of pressure to it. We're hooking up in there. Finding a place that's tight or hurts. We can move it underbite, overbite. Digging around with our thumbs. Releasing all this crap that's getting trapped in there. I didn't realize how tight I was in here. Okay, next, we're going right below the ear on both sides. Releasing this. This should genuinely make you feel wonderful after you do it, and I pray it does. And I'm so grateful that you're here following along with me right now. Moving our jaw around, taking a couple breaths here. Always good to move the hands around. Oh, man, I'm trapped up in here. I'm kind of hooking up towards my skull a little bit. Moving on to the SCM. Okay, the sternos going all the way up to the ear. We're just pinching all the way up and down this muscle. Okay, looking for a place that's tight or hurts. When you find a place that's tight or hurts, we're gonna apply pressure, take that muscle in a shortened position, move it through a full range of motion. Okay, 7 to 20 reps. You can always pause the tutorial to do more of anything. Doing it on every spot on this muscle line that's tight or hurts. Okay, moving on to the other side. Going all the way up and down this muscle. When you find a place that's tight or hurts on the sterno, stop on that spot, shorten the muscle, full ranges of motion. 7 to 20 full ranges of motion. Okay, next we're doing the base of the skull. Rubbing up and down the base of the skull. When we find a place that's tight or hurts, we're going to apply pressure there, move our head just a little side to side, trying to release the occipitals. Doing a little massage up in here. Staying on those occipitals. This place usually tends to get really tight, and a lot of people, due to hunching over, looking at our phones. Okay. Moving on to the trap. Going all the way to the back of the neck. The trap goes all the way up to the base of the skull. So we're going all the way up and down the trap 2 or 3 times. Look for any place that's tight or hurts. When you find a place that's tight or hurts, get that muscle in a shortened position. Move through it. Do it on every single spot along this muscle line that's tight or hurts. Genuinely, I have been doing this protocol to myself, and I can see my jawline is getting a lot sharper. I haven't always had a very good jawline. So just trust the process. It's going to take 3 to 6. It might even take a year. But I promise you that this is your one life, and it will be worth it. Not for the vanity of it, but for the breathing benefits of it. Okay, any spot on that trap that's tight or hurts, do 7 to 20 full ranges of motion with pressure on the adhesion or place that hurts. Going to the other side. Going all the way up and down. Okay, when we find a place, apply pressure, shorten the muscle, apply pressure, move that muscle through full range of motion. For the purposes of sharpening the jawline, this is one of the most important exercises. I recommend doing this exercise 1 set to failure every single night, maximum 2 sets to failure. You don't need to do any more than that. Before you do this exercise, it is important to note 2 things. Open and close your mouth a few times to warm up your jaw, because this is an exercise and we are strengthening muscles. If you have clicking or pain in your jaw, skip this exercise for now and wait till the clicking goes away with the rest of the protocol. Next, you must ensure that your tongue posture is focused in the back of your mouth and not pushing the tip of the tongue into the back of the teeth. This is going to make a huge difference over which muscles get trained, and when doing this exercise, when the back of your tongue is not pressed up against the back of your mouth, you will not get the results. With this exercise, we are training the suprahyoid muscles, which are the muscles responsible for pulling the hyoid bone up. The hyoid bone is the only bone in the body that is suspended within muscles and ligaments, and because of this, we can manipulate its position. If you're going to commit to doing this exercise, please take a side profile selfie today. You don't have to post it anywhere or send it to me right now. I would just like to have it one day when you transform in the next 3 to 6 months of doing this training. There are 2 different ways to do this exercise. I am teaching you the way that I believe is most effective, where we slightly open the mouth and engage the muscles in the mouth to keep our mouth just barely open, getting our hands in a prayer position, looking up, and then performing chin tucks. We're not engaging the SCMs here. We are tucking our chin. You should be feeling it and feeling the burn up in the area under the neck. Remember to ensure to keep the back of the tongue pressed up against the very back of the mouth. We are not putting the tip of the tongue against the back of the teeth. You will feel a massive difference when the back of the tongue is against the back of the mouth, and you will feel the skin that is slightly sagging getting tightened and pulled up when doing this exercise. If one of your main goals is to sharpen your jawline and you think that is more important than the rest of this protocol, this will be the most important thing to remember to do every single day. The rest of the protocol is extremely important as well for releasing fascia to allow the jaw to float forward and allowing our bodies to return to optimal posture. But for the majority of people, doing this exercise will be amazing for sharpening the jawline. That's literally all you need. Now make sure your hands are clean. Our fingers are going into our mouth. This specific technique will take the most practice out of probably everything in this protocol, but it will also be one of the most potent exercises for really releasing the jaw and actually opening up our airway and allowing all of our facial structure to float more forward, allowing the airway to actually open. So for now, the goal is to feel up and around outside the molars, pushing our finger up towards our face into this muscle that I have circled for you on the anatomy figure. What you're going to notice is that after you dig around in here and search for a place that's tight or hurts and you apply pressure to it, once you release your finger, it's going to feel amazing. It feels so good when you get it right. This one will take some practice. After you figure it out, you will feel the release and you will understand it a lot better once you get it right just one time. So take the time to practice this. We are in between the jawbone and cheekbone, hitting the lateral pterygoid from the inside of the mouth. Next, both fingers are not going on the teeth, but on the floor of the mouth, on the gums. And then we are hooking our thumbs up underneath our chin to get a good stretch on our jaw, pulling our jaw forward. With this stretch, it is okay to play with slightly different angles, but the main thing is staying completely square the whole time, always going straight forward, straight back. But you can look up, you can look down, finding a place that really allows the jaw to feel like it's stretching forward and releasing all trapped, tense tissue. Taking about 10 to 20 full breaths here, noticing how much you can relax while doing this stretch. Last, taking our 3 fingers, one on the floor of the mouth, other 2 on the molars. Placing our fingers in our mouth and allowing gravity to pull our elbow down in order to stretch the masseter muscle. Taking 5 to 10 breaths, maybe 20 breaths if you want to here. With all of these treatments, you are always allowed to go above and beyond and do more. The only one I don't recommend you doing more on are the exercises. Switching to the other side. Now, this scraping treatment is optional, but it is highly recommended. You will likely bruise, but if you have scraped this area already and you're bruised right now or sore, please wait to do the scraping again until the muscles are no longer bruised or sore. I put the time on the video to skip to if you don't want to do the scraping part, but I highly recommend doing the scraping so you don't miss anything trapping your fascia back. And at the very least, if you don't want to do the scraping part 2 times a week, but do the rest of the protocol every single day of the week. I'm starting with my non-comedogenic oil for my face because I break out easily. Some people can get away with using castor oil and coconut oil on their face. I cannot on my face. But once you have your non-comedogenic oil on the face, we are scraping the masseter. Doing the other side. All right, moving on to the rest of the muscles that are negatively impacted by sitting. I'm using castor oil, and you're welcome to use coconut oil as well. Scraping the SCM all the way up and down. Sometimes I do mini scrapes for each portion, making sure not to miss any spot that's tight or bumpy. Be gentle here. It doesn't need to be super hard. Like, we don't need to be hurting ourselves. We need to be firmly loving ourselves. Sounds kind of funny. Okay. You can add in a little bit of scalenes here. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the other side. Getting all the way up into the ear, all the way down low. Okay, adding in a little bit of scalenes. Scalenes, when you release them, it is so powerful because our scalenes really have such a massive impact on our hands. And our hands do everything. Okay, this next one, you probably want coconut oil for it if it's your first time, because usually it is pretty rough to do with castor oil because this part of the skin on the body is tough. Doing the occipitals. I use castor oil here, but I recommend coconut oil. You might want coconut oil. We're gonna do the occipitals and the upper traps. So the occipitals, we're getting this whole region right here, the whole base of the skull. Doing the other side. All right, finishing off scraping with the traps before we do our last exercise, which is incredibly opening for the airway. It is mimicking our ancestral tendency to rip a big piece of meat off of a bone, and I'm excited for you to try it. Okay, switching to the other side. This scraping though is so important, and we do all this release before we do this exercise so that the body has an easier time actually opening the airway when we do the exercise and the muscles are relaxed and open, therefore allowing the airway to open easier. Thank you for following along. I'm so grateful that you're here and you're trusting me. Moving on to our very last exercise, you want to be somewhat gentle with this exercise, but it is very powerful. So we're taking the towel in a folded up manner and we are biting with our molars on the folded part of the towel, and then we're going to pull the towel away from us to mimic what it feels like to take a big chunk of meat and freaking rip it off a piece of a bone. But the main thing with this exercise is staying completely square when we do this. That way we don't pull in any random direction. There is no need to rush into pulling the towel really hard, really fast. We want to slowly ease into it and take our time, engaging our triceps, pulling the towel away from us as if we are taking a big bite of meat and ripping it off of a bone. I personally like to pump it a little bit. As you can see, I am just doing a little bit of pulses where I am pulling it away from me like I'm trying to rip a piece of meat off of a bone. And scientifically, what we are doing here is we are pulling our mandible forward, and you will notice a very instant difference in the way it feels to breathe through your nose right after doing this protocol. I like to do 40 pulses on each side and switch hands, and then do 40 on the other, and then end with just one pretty good static hold. And you might be a little bit skeptical and think that this might be a little bit stupid, but just try it for yourself. Notice the differences for yourself. For me, I really love how it feels right after I do this. I just am obsessed with breathing afterwards. Every time I let go of that, it is insane how much more open I feel right away. So I pray you're experiencing a similar effect right now, and I'm so grateful to have shared this protocol with you, and I can't wait to see how it impacts your life positively.